Well, if you're going by 24 hours, your new look Kings don't look very good. 108, 102, Napes and Ryno. The Kings are now under 500. Ryno, I'm going to go to this number, and then you can go in any direction you want. Kings played 48-minute game and only had 21 assists. Only scored 102 points.
Yeah, it's a problem. There's a lot to go over with it. Grant, look, Doug Christie's theory about I don't want to teach them a play. I want to teach them how to play. That works well and fine when you've got a team that's been together for 2.5 years. Not anymore. This is where Doug Christie needs to become an NBA coach, adjust, draw up plays. You've got new parts that are not going to learn in a 30-game stretch how to play together. They're professionals. You got to install an offense.
Were you bothered by how much time they let run off the clock before fouling?
Yes, that was another issue. You let 18 seconds run off the clock. If you don't get the steal, you got to foul when you're down 6. But my problem, Grant, those things were kind of long and done by that point. My problem is the Blazers going on a 12-0 run when Malik Monk goes to the bench with 2 minutes left in the third quarter. And then that runs into the fourth quarter. Here's my other problem, Napes. Zach LaVine, both the first quarter and the third quarter, no clock awareness. Didn't even get off a shot. Threw a couple of grenades to guys. And it's that kind of stuff. That is where a coach needs to be in your ear. Zach needs to know that too. But it's got to be better. It's got to be better. A lot to break down. A lot here to talk about.
And once again, the opponent shot very well from 3, 40% shooting for the Blazers from beyond the arc. And now, as I said, Sacramento is 10th in the West. Bad night. Boston lost at home to Dallas. Go figure, right?
Yeah.
And then, and Minnesota wins. But look at that. The Mavericks going to Boston tonight and win 127-120. And how about Minnesota? They beat Houston 127-114.
There you go. That's the West for you. That is the West, especially with Minnesota not making a move at the deadline or a significant move. Yep. So, yeah, give us your reaction. You got to use the link that's in the chat. We'll get to your phone calls. A lot to talk about. Look, the Kings brought the effort tonight. No problem there. Valanciunas, he's going to be fine. I definitely have a strong take on Sabonis, which we'll get to. I know Grant has his takes. I've got a rant idea for you, too.
Oh, I love it. I've got a rant already in my mind, but I want to hear others.
Okay, very good. So let's kick it off with Essie. Essie, good evening.
Hey, guys. How's it going?
Good.
Hey there.
Good, thank you. So one thing I want to talk about is just, I know I've harped on this before, but sort of the rebounding is really, really bad. For those of you who care to see what I'm talking about, my Twitter handle is the same as the screen name SC916. I took a couple of clips. One is of, everyone on the Kings does this. When the opponents take a shot, they're sort of arm tangling with the opponent nearest to them, rather than putting themselves between the opponent and the basket. Okay. If the opponents get an offensive board because they shoot a 3 and it bounces off to 15, 20 feet, okay, you can't do anything about that. But if it's bouncing in the paint and you're not getting that rebound because you're ball gazing, A, or B, tangling arms and allowing other players to crash the board, sort of like what Josh Hart does. And in this game, was number 33 on the Trailblazers. I'm not sure what his name is. I think Tumani something. And I put a clip of Tumani getting an offensive board. He was actually boxing out on both ends, both defensive and offensive. And he had 5 offensive boards against us. Why does this matter? The reason this is really important is because we foul a lot once our opponents get an offensive board. They get the offensive board, they're in the paint. What do? You foul. Okay, that puts your team quickly in foul trouble. Sabonis gets in foul trouble, not just like that tonight. I mean, tonight he had 3 of them by just setting what were deemed as illegal picks. But
so let me interrupt if you don't mind. Let me, because you bring up some good points. What's your biggest gripe?
My biggest gripe is that if you're an undersized team and you can't You're not going to get bigger overnight. You got to do the fundamentals right. So
They did get bigger overnight.
Yeah, one of the fundamentals is boxing out, as I mentioned. The other one is when they're in the 2-3 zone. The players that are in the 3 zone, they're too close to the paint for my liking, and they're trying to close out. And Anthony Simons and the entire Trailblazers
That's what
team was
Ryan and
shooting
Jerry were
lights
talking
out.
about at halftime, right, Ryno?
We're
A lot
talking
of
about
defense.
guys dropping down and getting into the drop and helping
Yeah,
too low. The zone's
get
a
a
little
lot
bit different.
closer
Yeah.
to your opponent, man. You can't, if they're shooting lights out from 3, you got to get closer. And if you give up a 2, I mean, you got Sabonis in there, you got Valanciunas in there, people that can collapse. But to give up that many threes is just unacceptable. So those
Well,
are my 2 points.
thank you very much. We
Appreciate it.
really appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay.
Appreciate the folks that want to get on and talk. Thank you for leading us off.
Yeah, definitely. Always a good lead off with Essie. And Essie, really quick, it was you that talked about possibly Levine or DeRozan coming off the bench. That came up on the 4 o'clock roundtable. Jerry Reynolds brought it up. So good job by you. Look, 2-3 zone rebounding, Grant, that's the liability of running a 2-3 zone.
That's right.
It happens, and the Kings have been fortunate and been able to do it. As far as fouling on offensive rebounds, how many times does Sabonis get fouled on offensive rebounds? It's
Good
just
point.
a product of being in the paint. Now, what Essie brought up about, we'll get to it in a second. Let's go to another phone call first.
Okay, go ahead.
To it. Jay Cal, what's up tonight?
Hey guys, long time no talk.
What's up, man?
That was a frustrating game to watch. Once again, another team plays like they're Reggie Miller when they play against the Kings, just like the Orlando Magic game. It's hard to watch, honestly. Question: were you guys surprised that the Kings didn't trade for a true point guard?
Yes.
100%.
And you could totally see it, right? Like
Yes.
I like Monk and all, but he's not a point guard. Let's face it. Sometimes what frustrates me when I watch Monk, he gets carried away too much and just, you know what I mean? He has too many of those plays where he just like goes too fast and just turns it over. Like the type of player that I do miss is Davion Mitchell, and I think he's going to play really well.
He's not a point guard either, though, Jay Cal.
Yeah, but I mean, like a point guard like Marcus Smart, you know? I forgot which team he went to, but I think Kings really needed to trade for a point guard, and you can see it.
100%. Jay Cal, the Kings have not had a true point guard on this team during the Beam Team era. You have not had one true point guard that can play. You had backups like Della Vedova, you had McLaughlin, but you've never had a true point guard, and you have drafted guards that are completely in between a point guard and a 2 guard. And that's why you're in this hole right now.
Yeah.
So you're absolutely right.
And I mean, like you guys said before that Devin Carter is not ready yet, you know?
Well, does he look ready to you?
Not at all. He looked
played 8 minutes. He played 8 minutes tonight and was -10. Did not score.
Yeah.
All right. And had no assist. He's not ready.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. I'll talk to you guys Saturday. Thank you.
Appreciate you, Jay Cal. All right, really quick. What Essie was talking about, you guys, I want to go to this really quick. It's Ryno's whiteboard. And by the way, if anybody wants to sponsor Ryno's whiteboard, you just let us. He talked about Sabonis having 3 offensive fouls tonight. I do not blame Sabonis for having 3 offensive fouls tonight. He doesn't happen to be on the court here. Valanciunas is, but this was the best example I could get. Look at Valanciunas and DeRozan right here on the pick and roll. They are literally shoulder to shoulder coming off of there. That is how a pick and roll is supposed to be ran. What's happening, because you have new guys in the fold, and we saw this previously at times with Foxy and some of the other guards, they're not using the screen properly, which means any type of movement from the big man, whether he just shuffles out a tiny bit this way, comes back a tiny bit, if that other player, the defender, falls, more times than not, they're going to call it an offensive foul. So this is how it is supposed to be done. And that is a product of guys not playing together, Grant. That is a product of guys needing to learn each other's strengths and how to use their big man.
It's a great illustration. Great illustration. And the problem is you don't have a lot of practices right now for a while.
No, you don't. You don't. You don't have a practice until the All-Star break or
Right.
after it.
Right.
You really don't. And credit to Valanciunas. He got some good looks tonight. I thought he played good minutes.
He's a good player.
He was a little bit gassed, but you could see some frustration with him as well. I've got another illustration. We'll go back to the board in a second to show that. But first to the phones, G Money. What's up? Dude, if you're going to come in here with a gloss like G Money, you better be ready. You're going to make me say G Money?
Hey, and, you know, once again, the bench tonight, 15 points.
It's a problem. It's a problem. I do think it'll get better, though. Nathan, what's going on tonight?
Hey, guys, can you hear me?
Yep, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm from Australia, first-time caller, and love the show.
Awesome.
I was just wondering, yes, I was just wondering, I saw a report about Ben Simmons and the Nets trying to get rid of him and send him, you don't want him?
No.
Fair enough, because I thought his height, and he's more of a more like traditional sort of point guard. He gets like 7 assists a game. I thought his height might help with the team. He's not too bad of a defender.
A good version of Ben Simmons, but the guy's a mental case.
Yeah, that's a good point. All right, thanks, guys.
Appreciate you. Thanks for the first time call.
That's my opinion. Ryan may disagree.
I don't know enough about that part. I know he's missed time because of that. I'm more worried about whether he can be on the court or not. So if that translates into the mental case, and is he a guy that's going to administrate the offense, or is he more of a guy that's a defensive player? He's not going to score. We know that, Names.
Well, when he was an all-star, he was very good on offense, not scoring, but distributing the ball and running the offense.
So, well, we'll see. The Kings have the roster spots and the money to do it if they would like to.
That was a long time ago, though, Ryan, when he was good. That was a long time ago.
You're right. You're absolutely right. GP.
What's going on with your camera, buddy?
Hey, how you guys doing?
How are you?
Good. Couple of points I wanted to make, man. I agree with the caller saying we do need to box out better, man. We're letting a lot of teams just, get on the loose ball, and, they're quicker to the ball, I feel like, right now. But I feel like with more practice time, we should be better, Grant. What do you think? How much time do you think the first 5 games after the All-Star should tell us a lot? And,
I don't know, but you only have 31 games. You only have 31 games left in the year. You know, you're running out of time.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you are running out of runway.
And the hard part of the schedule is still in front of you.
Yeah, no doubt.
And this one other point. This was supposed to be the easy stretch.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Most people had these 2 games as W's. 2 teams well below you in the standings in respective conferences, and you lose both of them.
Yeah, I agree. The Orlando one should have been one, although the Blazers lately, they have been playing a lot better under Chauncey Billups. You know, he's a heck of a coach. And those young guys. Grant, I wanted to talk about kind of Simons and little bit going backwards with
Poor BG, your GP.
Damian
We lost you, buddy.
Lillard. Man, that guy, because we had that guy practice with us before the draft.
You got a bad connection. We got to let you go.
Simons was supposed to be the quote-unquote heir apparent to Dame Lillard. The Kings, look, Simons Grant was terrible in both of the games before this one, and the Kings just allowed him to step into threes. The Kings, tell me in what world, Grant, it makes sense to leave Advia, that makes sense to leave Simons, what makes sense to leave Scoot Henderson to go help on Ayton, go help on guys in the post, Klingon, that aren't big threats in the post, and the Kings did it constantly tonight.
The whole time. Yeah.
The whole time. And as for the rebounding, Napes, you know this, if you're running a certain defense, usually there's a guy or 2 that's getting back and everybody else is boxing out. In this case, they're not running really set defenses, set plays, so it comes down to communication.
Listen, communication is key. A lot of new guys, no practice, but I still see the same issues. Not very good defensively. can't guard the three, too much ISO ball at times, inconsistency, and based on my phone blowing up, once again, speaking of consistency,
Oh boy, I
another
know.
blown replay by Katie on her analysis. So everything is pretty much the same.
Another letter from the referees
How
union,
bad is
man.
that? Seriously, how can you keep on getting it wrong over and over and over again? Like my phone, you should see my phone, all the messages. Like, how do you keep on getting the replay reviews wrong as an analyst?
Well,
It's
Grant, I'm
unbelievable.
going to ask you this. How does Mark Jones, who calls national games, how does Kyle Draper, who comes from Boston and has been in this business for a while, not pull her to the side and say, hey, you need to chill on that. You got to quit it.
Well, first of all, it's not their job to do that. I would, but I've said this before. There's nobody within the walls of the Kings organization that knows anything at all about broadcasting. And because I haven't been affiliated with the network that televises the games now for over 4 years, I don't know who they may have as new employees. But when I was there, nobody knew anything about broadcasting in a market like San Francisco. I was blown away. I was absolutely blown away. Nobody knew anything about broadcasting. Now we have a director by the name of Mike Bird in the truck.
Mm-hmm.
Birdie was great. Birdie was great.
What a
The
great
guy
nickname.
was great. But Birdie was not, his expertise was not in announcing. It was in production and cutting the game and making it visually look good and replays and things of that nature. But in terms of the hierarchy at the network that carries the Kings telecast, nobody, and I mean nobody there, has any idea what the hell they're doing when it comes to broadcasting. So who's going to tell her anything? Because nobody knows.
Well, I don't need to know about broadcasting to know that criticizing the officials. And the problem is Sacramento fans are smart fans. And it's getting to the point where it's like, oh, I need to see another angle. Or I didn't have the other angle if the call's wrong. And I feel awkward and embarrassed for her. And I don't call games. I'm not set to call games. And
Well, I will tell you this.
It's
I
bad.
like Katie. I
do
like her as
too.
a person. I've never been fond of her as a broadcaster, but I like her as an individual. I think she's a sweet lady, and I enjoyed getting to know Katie. I've said this before, and I'll say it again. You set me up in a video room where I have access to past games and things. I could make her a much better broadcaster in 1 hour. 1 hour. I could point out things to her. I could tell her things. I could coach her. And in 1 hour, assuming that she would listen to what I had to say, I could make her better. We used to have a person like that, Craig Amazine, who was the director of broadcasting for the Kings a long time ago. He would have had Katie in his office all the time, drilling her on what you should and what you should not do. Let's go over your mistakes. Let's go over your game tape. And she would have improved. You don't have anybody in the organization now that's capable of doing that.
I remember when you used to have conversations with Charles Davis about stuff like that.
Absolutely.
Incredible conversations about how they would sit down and break down the call and let you know what's good, what's bad. They would grade out every single week.
I used to watch a lot of my games, and even after 25 years and 30 years, I would still find things that I could do better in, you have to, but whatever. But back to the team, this is an awful 24 hours.
I'm not going to say it's an awful 24 hours.
Come on,
No,
come on.
Grant, you've got two new guys in the system. I'm not making excuses for this team. There is issues, and it also goes to Doug Christie, but I'm not going to panic. Yes, I'm worried that you're under 500. Both of us didn't think that would happen the rest of the season. But with the schedule coming up, I know no practice time. I want to see if Doug Christie can adjust. If I see adjustments, and I'm not an NBA head coach, there's adjustments to be made. Many people are seeing adjustments in the chat. Essie had a good point. I'm not going to panic yet. You're without a point guard. You don't have a point guard.
Well, how are you going to get one?
on the buyout market, or you
Well,
to
good luck.
Grant, you got to make an adjustment.
Yep.
Got to make an adjustment with your
And
rotation.
you got to make an adjustment on the fly.
100%. Fuji,
Right.
what's going on? Yes, absolutely.
Hey guys, what's going on? Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we
Yep.
got you.
Hey, longtime fan, Grant.
Thank
Pleasure to be
you.
on. You know, it was a weird game. I went to the Orlando game last night, and obviously we got blown out. You know, you're sitting here and watching Franz Wagner just being guarded by ghosts, right? And then you look at tonight, and it's tough. It's a tough loss, but you see a lot of, positive things. But I got to ask, and this is, I may be coming out of left field here, but towards the end of the game, when you got DeMar DeRozan, who's sitting here and hitting bucket after bucket after bucket, you know what? He had 3 in a row. He hit that and one, and then next thing you know, we got. And I love Malik Monk. I do think he gets a little aggressive, and that's my point. He goes down the court. He gets past the first defender. He takes on 2 more, and it's a tough shot. And it's just, at what point does Doug Christie tell his guys in a timeout that we just go to the hot hand? And it seems to be DeMar DeRozan down the stretch. I mean, I think that we just got to keep feeding the guy. What do you guys think?
Well, it seemed like they did that down the stretch. He got plenty of ISO opportunities. He got an and one towards the end of the fourth quarter. I don't disagree with you, but you've got to get creative in the way you get them the ball, because all they're going to do is start doubling if you just keep going to the well, basically. Right, Grant?
100%. I mean, it's the NBA. People are going to, there's a saying, keep doing it until they stop you. Well, in this league, if you keep doing the same thing over and over again, they're going to stop you. You got to have a little bit of change up. Yes.
Yeah, 100%. But you're right. And I think LaVine can be that guy, but you're asking Zach LaVine to bring the ball up the court and start the offense when he's had exactly, I don't remember what he played last night, but tonight he played 37 minutes when whatever he played yesterday with this group, and a new piece in Valanciunas. Same thing goes with DeRozan. DeRozan was not here to be a point guard, and that's what you're using him as. It's pretty much point guard by committee.
Yeah. I think he got to a point, where he's hitting those buckets. If he's commanding a double team, then, I mean, he could facilitate at that point. But, again, he isn't a point guard. So
he's not. Yeah, he's not. And he's the best creator right now that the Kings have. One thing he's probably going to the well too much on is that little snake dribble off of the pick and roll. That's meant to be, like, for anybody that watches football, when you do a running play or a power play, once in 10 plays, you'll throw a cutback in. That's what that snake dribble is supposed to be. And more times than not, Grant, we're seeing Malik snake off that pick and roll.
Thank you for your call.
Absolutely. I appreciate it.
We appreciate you. Don't forget about Sunrise Landing in Calusa, the newest residential community in Calusa. You go to CalusaSunrise.com from Blazona Development. You will be able to check out these beautiful models. No Mellorews, no homeowners, good access to the major roads like I-5, adjacent to the Calusa Golf and Country Club. Check out Sunrise Landing at CalusaSunrise.com. And Ryan, I know you told me you had an idea for a rant, but for everyone else, a rant with Grant's coming up in a little bit. If you have any ideas, put them on the chat line.
Love it. You know what my idea for the rant is?
What's that?
DeMar DeRozan. He takes the worst shot in basketball way too much. Toe on the 3-point line.
Oh, gosh.
Like,
it's like that. Mitch Richmond was like that.
I don't remember Mitch doing that a lot, was he?
All the time.
Interesting. All right. Katie slammed the refs for that, too, for stopping the game. I think it was within the last 2 minutes of the fourth quarter to check whether it was.
They had to. They changed it from a 2 to a 3.
Yep. So
I mean, you have to.
I hear you. Jay, we're coming to you in a second. So, Grant, this is why I have optimism that adjustments can be made for this team. This was in the first half. Look at Valanciunas. He had just got the ball. He had actually had the ball for about 5 seconds. Look at all of your other Kings. Malik Monk, standing. Keegan Murray, standing. Devin Carter, gassed, hands on his knees. Trey Lyles, or that's Zach LaVine, excuse me, in the corner. They just stood, and Valanciunas got down to about 8 on the shot clock, finally kicks it out to Keegan Murray. Keegan Murray goes to Devin Carter. Shot clock violation because they don't get the shot off. Grant, this is where Coach Christie needs to put some structure in, because these players have not played together. If this was the old team, they know that Keegan usually likes to cut that back door. We know Malik's going to come around the curl. You don't have that anymore. So you've got to cut. It's not happening enough. And just little adjustments like that are going to help this team. So I'm not ready to panic.
You're 10th in the West. The Warriors lost, thank goodness, or else you would have been 11th in the West. So you drop a couple of spots, and you've got games coming up. You got to win all three against the Pelicans. They're in last place.
Agree. Completely.
But I don't think they will.
I think you get 2 out of 3. I do.
A lot depends on Zion Williamson. Hey, Jay.
How you guys doing?
Good.
Just a side note, I think that play you pulled up was an ISO play for Valanciunas. Is what it looks like to me.
It was not an ISO play.
He got
sure? 100%. He got position, and then they moved back out and they rotated it around. So,
well, I mean, it just looks like you got a rookie on you, Donovan Clingan, and then you got a 6'11", 270 guy with no help. That's what it. You know what I mean? That's why it looks like. There's no. The guy that was guarding Levine looked pretty deep into that corner where Levine was at the 3. So maybe it wasn't. But I mean, I would say also you put Valanciunas in for the first time today. He's not really going to be running plays and things like that. So that's why I think that it looked like that. But to your point, ISO play or not, ISO play with Valanciunas isn't going to cut it. You got to have off-ball movement. So,
Jay, they're not cutting. They're
Exactly.
not cutting. And when they do, it's either deflected or turned over.
Yes, exactly. And you're great observation. Keegan loves to go back door. Normally he's in that corner where Zach is. But, looking at it, I think that the organization, I think they did one of two things. I think Vivek is very eager to try to win and try to make playoffs and force something that's just not necessarily the right path for this franchise.
Mm-hmm.
And number 2, Monty's either trying to save his job and trying to make playoffs. Either way, those aren't two ways that you go about doing that. When you lose a player like De'Aaron Fox, that was huge for us as this franchise and for the fan base. I think that you start gutting this out. I think that, you don't make the push for the playoff. You don't have a pick next year. I think you can get some good picks. There's a couple, nice prospects coming out in this draft and future drafts. And I think you have to face reality for what it is. This is a small market. You're not going to get free agents. DeMar DeRozan was the biggest free agent we've ever gotten. And, you could send him somewhere like before the deadline was over, like to Denver or to the Warriors or something, put him into some sort of contention team. You start looking at what else you have around you. You can keep a guy like Monk. He's affordable. Keegan's still young and on a rookie contract, so you can keep someone like that around. And then you start looking at, like, what do you do with Sabonis? He's 29 years old, and he costs a lot of money for a team that is barely scraping by, if they are. We're under 500 now. And, yeah, I get we don't have team chemistry. That's not what I'm saying. All I'm saying is it feels like a forced decision or like a rushed decision when I think right now I'm looking at long-term success with this organization. And I think it starts with being able to take a couple losses. Well, first of all, we've taken plenty of losses for the past 20 years, but it's almost like you see the recipe for success when it comes to competing in the NBA, especially with small market teams. Memphis wasn't always a great team. OKC wasn't always a great team. You have Brooklyn with a lot of assets. Utah is going to make something big. They're going to be a completely different franchise 4 years from now. Washington will be completely different. That's all it takes is accumulating these assets on affordable contracts and being able to build a core. I mean, look at San Antonio, and you strike at the right time and you get a guy like Fox. And now, man, San Antonio is going to be good. I really hope I want to see them do good for sure. But I want to get your thoughts on that. Just, did you think that it was worth trying to make a playoff run, especially taking on a contract of Zach LaVine, another $50 million contract for a team that's, you're probably not going to do it this year. So what's your thoughts on that?
Napes?
I think there are enough pieces on the Kings to be competitive and get into the playoffs. And I think that's what they're trying to do. I don't think well, you could say they mortgaged their future a little bit with the Fox deal, but he was going to leave anyway. So the one thing, Jay, we don't know what draft picks are going to turn out to be. I mean, right now, look at Devin Carter. He looks like a bad pick. Now that we may a year from now have a completely different opinion and go, wow, it took him a while to develop. But right now, he does not look like a good pick. But I'm giving him a full benefit of the doubt due to his injury, no summer league, no training camp. You know, he's trying to catch up. But right now, again, only what we know, it does not look like a good pick.
Yeah, that's true.
So draft picks are fine, but they're only fine if you draft the right guy.
You know, that's a big transition from playing in the Big East for Providence to the NBA. You know,
of course,
it's not even a top conference out in college basketball. So definitely, that's a tough transition with no summer league or
Well, 100%. Here's the other thing too. Everybody talked about his 3-point shooting. I mean, much was made of his defense, and I think that there's a lot more potential there. But his 3-point shooting jumped 10% between his sophomore and junior year in college. It was not very high before that. So it's still a work in progress, and it's going to be a work in progress. As to blowing it up, I think anybody making judgments on this team after 2 games
can't do it.
You can't do it.
No.
We need at least, like Grant, bare minimum, the All-Star
10 games,
break?
in my opinion. 10 games for me.
There you go.
Yeah, you could say 10, but it's like we didn't have an off season with this, you know. So I would argue more, but it's like maybe like 20 games, but we don't have 20 games as you mentioned earlier.
It's a veteran team. 10 games will give you a sample size because all these guys know how to play.
And Jay, as for blowing it up, man, this is such a perfect time in the Western Conference. And I know it's crazy competitive right now, but those top 3 teams, they're going to be there for a minute. Excuse me, Denver's now in the top 3. Houston, Memphis, and Oklahoma City. They're going to be Bears for the next couple of years. Denver will have Jokic, but they struck out at the trade deadline. And Murray, what's going to happen? Are they going to? I see them floating down more as time goes on, basically. I don't think the Clippers are going to be around as long as we think the Lakers situation changed. I think Golden State obviously has a 2-year window. Dallas, who knows? Coin flip at this point. What I'm saying is it's the wrong time to blow it up. The Western Conference is shuffling. And like Grant said, you've got some good talent. And I'm not ready to say that Levine's contract today is terrible after 2 games. I just...
No, I'm not either.
And here's... Jay, here's the other thing, dude. Look at what happened at this trade deadline. This is no longer an NBA where you're going to see 4 or 5, 6-year contracts. You are going to see teams flipping all-stars all the time because of this new CBA. It's the only way to shake things up and stay competitive other than drafting well and developing.
You know, I call this trade deadline the NBA arms race. I think this will be phenomenal 10 years from now that you can make a whole 30 for 30 on this trade deadline. You know, I think it's great. But, you know, I know we have enough talent. I know Zach LaVine is a special dynamic player. I know DeMar DeRozan is a well-seasoned veteran who, I mean, you see what he's doing right now with no Fox. He's like, okay, I don't have to, you know, make sure Fox, you know, gets his touch. Like, I'm going to take over this 4th quarter. I know what I have to do. You know, Sabonis is going to do Sabonis things every night. And not to mention, I think we have great pieces good pieces. And we shook things up off the bench. I do think the bench will get better, to Ryno's point. All I'm saying is I value longevity.
Sure.
And I want to see this franchise, when they make the playoffs again, I want them to make playoffs again and again.
Yeah,
and
for
again.
Sure.
I don't want to see us, we barely made the play in, right? That's all I'm saying. So that's it. But I know we have enough talent, and I don't want people to freak out saying, oh, my God, we suck or whatnot. I'm just questioning, should we have, you know, made the push, or should we have tried to see what we can get out there? Which, who knows, they may have. And
I think you go ahead, Grant.
I'm going to say that I hate to call a game a must-win game. The New Orleans game at home coming up is a must-win game. They're in last place in the conference. You cannot lose 3 in a row to these teams and survive. You've got to win this game coming up on Saturday night.
You have to sweep the Pelicans. They got rid of Brandon. Zion, who knows? DeJounte
Brandon
Murray's
wasn't
out.
playing. Yeah.
Right. Well, yeah, Brandon's not playing anyway. But DeJounte, God bless DeJounte Murray. I love
Okay,
that.
if Zion Williamson's on the floor, the Kings are going to have a tough time winning. Okay,
Yeah.
they just are.
Oh yeah. I mean, anybody. He's so we'll see. But I think we have a better shot this year than we did last year. I hope
No
so.
question. You've already beat him once. Thanks, Jay.
Thank you. Sorry, yeah, it's getting late, but
Hey, I can guarantee that we don't have to deal with Valanciunas this year.
Yeah, right. He killed the Kings last year. Killed them. Hey, New Works Plumbing, they've got a fix for you. They're available around the clock, 24/7. Just go to sackserviceplumbing.com or newworksplumbing.com, NEWWRXplumbing.com. That's sackserviceplumbing.com. Again, available around the clock, 24/7 for all of your plumbing needs. And this weekend, how about getting down to Bennett's for the prime seafood and steaks? Their weekend brunch is outstanding. You'll love Bennett's, the 3 locations, the West Side Grill in Rockland. They have a location in Roseville and in Sacramento. Same great food at all 3 locations. Again, just go to bennettsrestaurants.com, make a reservation. That's bennettsrestaurants.com. That bottom right-hand corner. Give it to me right
Yes.
now.
No.
Love it. Love it. Bennett's, awesome. bennettsrestaurants.com.
You know, to Jay's point, and you said that Fox needed to be traded before the deadline. I thought it would be better to wait for the value. Now that I've talked to some people and I know that you were plugged in as well, that couldn't have waited the rest of the season.
Well, if you watched Monty McNair yesterday, and by the way, after our show, I went back and watched a lot more than just excerpts. The one theme that I took out of yesterday was De'Aaron Fox had already made a decision that no matter what, he was not going to sign in Sacramento. He was gone. Okay? When you as a organization understand that a key piece is gone, regardless of how you feel about it, you have to act.
Yeah.
You agree?
Completely agree. To where it was at, you do. And I thought you made a wonderful point earlier today on the 4 p.m. show about the last 2 years of De'Aaron. Something has just been different.
It's been a lot different. As a matter of fact, that is going to be the topic of my rant tonight. My rant is brought to you by EDH Motors, Automotive Reimagined. You go to edhmotors.com. You can check out everything that they can do for you. David and Adam, just 2 guys trying to do something different and better. This is a long overdue new concept. If you go to edhmotors.com, you can get an idea of what they have available for you. But here's the key. Because of their decades of automotive experience, they'll find exactly what you need. They will sell your vehicle. They'll do a lot of things that make your life a lot easier because you don't have to go to a dealership. You'll take delivery at the Auto Lounge in El Dorado Hills at the town center. It's very easy. All right, edhmotors.com. That's edhmotors.com. Well, I've talked about this a lot. I think you all know my affection for De'Aaron Fox when I was still calling the games for the Kings. I loved talking to De'Aaron. I loved announcing his games. I loved watching him play courtside. I loved to watch his interaction with the fans. I was a huge De'Aaron Fox fan. One night before the telecast, I was standing on the floor with Doug, and he was warming up, and we started talking. And I said to him, I go, you know what? You're going to have your jersey up on the rafters if you want. You can have everything that you want. And I said, and you can own this town. And he said, thanks, man. I appreciate that. I go, I'm serious, man. I've been here a long time. I've been here since the 80s. I've seen a lot. I'm just telling you, you have a chance to have this city in the palm of your hands. And I really thought that's where we were going, especially after the 48-win season 2 years ago and how dominant Fox was against the Warriors until he broke his finger. And that's the only thing that could slow him down. But he was not good. He was great. And I thought, wow, we are watching the actual blossom of a beautiful flower that's going to be around for a long, long time. And now here we are in 2025. And I made a comment earlier today. And for those of you that were not with us, bear with me. Understand that I have a different sports background than many of you because the East Coast mentality of sports and the West Coast are different. Doesn't mean one's better than the other. They're just different. And I think most sports fans acknowledge that. The sports fans in Philadelphia and New York are different than the sports fans in San Francisco and LA. Doesn't mean that the sports fans in San Francisco and LA don't love their team, but it's different. Me personally, Grant Napier, as hard as this is for me to say, I would boo De'Aaron Fox when he comes back in a couple of weeks as a member of the Spurs. I think what he did to this franchise and his lack of professionalism lately, really going back to a couple of instances, sulking and moping when Tyrese Halliburton was on the team. After the Kings traded Tyrese, he was a completely different person, body language completely different. Last year, blown off the media for 3 weeks. His disconnect in the Detroit game, he's the reason why the Kings lost to the Pistons. Nobody else. He's the reason. Falling asleep in a three-point shooting situation, just completely out of position, and then fouling the shooter, which was Mike Brown's last game as head coach. De'Aaron's press conferences this week in San Antonio have made me nauseous. And De'Aaron's tweet earlier today, talking about the dysfunction that everyone's talking about with this franchise as if it's his fault. I'm not saying that the dysfunction of the Sacramento Kings is Fox's fault. What I am saying is he contributed to it greatly. The minute he signed with Clutch Sports, he was different. You never heard De'Aaron say lately, I want to be in Sacramento. This is where I want to end my career. All you heard was, I didn't request a trade. It wasn't, I didn't request a trade. I really want to be here. I love it here. My family loves it here. This is where I want to retire. All it was, I didn't request a trade. De'Aaron's body language. Have you seen how vibrant he is when he talks to the media in San Antonio? That's not the De'Aaron Fox that I saw this year. That's not the De'Aaron Fox that I saw last year. De'Aaron checked out on the Sacramento Kings. Checked out. Okay? Yes, he had some moments. 60 points, 49 points. He's a dynamic player. He's a very good player. And there are times when the competitor in you will take over, regardless of whether you want to be there or not. You're in the moment and you want to kick the other team's ass. I get that. But there were too many times that we would come on this post-game show and we would talk about what's going on with De'Aaron. What's wrong with his body language? We would criticize his media sessions. We would talk about what's the deal with him? Does he want to be here? Does he not want to be here? I'm really, how do I want to say this? I've lost a lot of respect for Fox lately. And so, you know what? Here's my message to the Sacramento Kings. Monte McNair's press conference yesterday laid it all out perfectly. He didn't want to be here. He wasn't going to sign a new deal. A new deal was not imminent. It was not going to happen. This franchise right now needs to grow a pair. I don't want to see a special video tribute when Fox comes in. I don't want a special introduction. You as a fan, you want to give him a standing O when he's introduced, give him a standing O. If I were at the game, I would boo him. I don't want any bells and whistles from the Kings. Oh, De'Aaron's back in town. Let's kiss his ass. He screwed you over in a way. That's what he did. The Kings opened up their checkbook, opened up the bank vault for him. He took the money, and then there were too many times he was less than adequate and less than professional. I don't forget that. This is big-time sports. You spend a lot of money when you go to the games. You invest a lot of your time when you watch the games and follow the games and come on shows like this. You're invested. You're passionate. You love your team. You know what? This may be too strong. Fox left you standing at the altar. That's what he did. And his demeanor this week in San Antonio has once again disgusted me. And for him to go on social media and talk about the dysfunction of the franchise and like, it's not my fault. Look in the freaking mirror, buddy. Look in the mirror. And that's my rant for tonight.
Incredibly well said. Great perspective. I'll never forget you and I this season. We have independent people that we talk to that are plugged in, and we exchange text messages before the Lakers 2 games. And we both knew the same thing. There was trouble brewing.
Yep.
Something was going on. And not that it was all Fox, but a big part of it was around Fox. And from that point on, he lost me. And I think he lost a lot of this fan base when, after those 2 games, he said, well, it's out of our hands now. And I'm paraphrasing. We're going to need help from a lot of people. And I know that did not sit well with the fan base. And then from there, the Draymond podcast, you really couldn't have orchestrated your passive aggressive campaign any better than Clutch Sports and De'Aaron Fox did, Grant.
I appreciate all the comments, and I think if Ryan can do this at some point to take my rant and his comments, we'll put it on our social media platforms so people that missed what I just said and what Ryan said can look at it at their leisure. But now it's time to move on, Ryan.
Yeah.
Right? And you can't do anything about what Fox wanted. And I don't wish him harm, by the way. I'm not that type of a person. I don't hate De'Aaron Fox. I'm just disappointed in him. But I'm not giving him a standing ovation. I can tell you that.
Yep. I am not at the point where I would boo him, but I am not standing and clapping either.
Okay, fair enough.
So that's
Fair
where
enough.
I'm at. Let's
You have to understand, being a sports fan in New York, booing is like part of the lore of being a sports fan. So, like, I came out of my mother's womb.
exactly.
Booing,
Apes. Bingo.
Zach, what's up? And I boo every time I see that damn red light on the ramp. And that pisses me off, and I boo. That's what happened to my voice. Anyway, Zach, what's going on?
How you guys doing? I just wanted to say my thoughts on this team right now. I'm in full panic mode. I'm in absolute full panic mode right now. I think you guys are talking, adjustments and stuff that we can make. It's too late for adjustments. We only got like 30 games left.
31.
31 games left. We can't just keep waiting for the next game. The next game, we're on the brink of not even being in the play-in. And, there's just no upside for this team. We traded a borderline all-star for like no assets. Everyone's watching the ball. There's too much ISO I've been seeing. Levine got beat like a bunch of times. Just watching him play defense is a little tough. Monk was getting beat too, but this is not even a playoff team. Like, if we're gonna play the bigger kid teams, we're in for a treat. I got excited about the wing that we got with Jake, but then I saw his contract, and then we can't really offer more than $5.5 million this year. So I was kind of upset about that. The big thing is our schedule is going to get harder and harder. Like, this is supposed to be the easy part for the next 2 months.
Right.
And if we're not taking advantage of this, then I'm just not excited, and the future just seems bleak. And all our players are older. I was talking about that the last game, stuff like that. It's just it's tough to see with no upside. And all the teams ahead of us are younger and better, and we're most of our players are in their primes or post prime, to be honest. So I don't know.
You're one more bad stretch. You're one more bad stretch from talking about the offseason, Monty McNair being fired and a new coach coming in, and you're starting all over with a new front office and a new coaching staff. You're one bad stretch away from all of that happening.
Yeah, I think the front office should be fired for no matter what happens. The coach, there's going to be a new. I think I might lose the bet with Ryno. I think there might be a new coach in the summer, and I seriously think that we should be trading. I don't think we're going to make playoffs, and if we don't make playoffs, I think that we should just trade Sabonis, like everyone. We gotta. This is supposed to be, all the teams ahead of us are younger and better already. So, what's the point of keep running it back with this team? We have talent. I get it. We have talent, but the talent just doesn't play that much defense, and that's like half the game. So,
okay, Zach, I respect what you're saying. I think there is a lot of truth to what you're saying, but everybody's saying players. If we are going to give Doug Christie all this credit for winning 9 of his first 10 games, we need to also go to the other side. Doug Christie is not doing his players any favors right now, both with his defensive game plan and his offensive game plan. When the zone defense is about the best thing you can throw at a team right now, you got to do better. And guess what? Defense was Doug's thing. Just as much as these players are going to be tested these next 31 games, so is Doug Christie. And he's got to step it up too.
No, for sure. Doug Christie's got to be playing. I mean, it's a tough position for him. I mean, I know we gave him a lot of credit in the beginning when we were winning all these games and the players were energized, stuff like that. But he can make some adjustments. But even if he does make the adjustments, I just don't see the talent in the players for having the capable defense as well. Like he can make all the adjustments in the world. I saw Zach LaVine just get beat one-on-one a bunch of times. Monk get beat one-on-one a bunch of times. I don't know how much. I mean, you can collapse and then you can get the wide open three. That's just going to keep happening. I mean, people can make some points. I know I've heard callers say that we can put Keon in the starting lineup. That might help. But even then, I don't see. We're not going to put a $50 million player on the bench. And I don't think we're going to put DeMar on the bench, and just putting Monk back on the bench would be just kind of like disrespectful at this point. And we're just got to run and see what we can. But I just want to see more upside with this team, and I just want to get more future and assets to go for the future because, we got, it's just bleak right now.
Thank you, Zach.
I hear you. Thanks, Zach. I want to see this team with a point guard. That's what I want to see. Hopefully we get to
how many years have I been talking about that with you?
You have been saying it since the trade deadline of the Beam team.
Yep. And I still think it's their biggest weakness and has continued to be their biggest weakness.
And probably the biggest question that's never been asked to this front office either, because they just have not filled that position. And with the drafts, it's confusing. Baki, we're coming to you next. First, Umar, what's going on? Umar, you there? Going once. Going twice. I must not have said his name right. Baki, all the way from Serbia.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah. Before I say anything about the Kings and this game tonight, I would like really to congratulate to you, Grant. This rant you just made should be installed in the office of the Kings, big screen in Golden One, and all true Kings fans should listen it not once but few times. And if you need my opinion, and I listen a lot of NBA stuff, the best and honest rant ever made.
Thank you.
From you. Definitely I'm gonna listen it 2 or 3 times more, maybe more. Great words, and not only the rant, and it is the nail statement. You put whole the Aaron Fox career in 1 or 2 minutes. Things to record and save. Point.
Thank you.
So about the game. When we talk about the strategy and the defense, let's bring it. Let's bring it because you can spot it clearly out of the plane flying at 35,000 feet. This team is trying to play the zone. They are not playing it. They just try to play it and learn it yet. Zone defense is the specialty of the coaches from the Europe, and the best coaches in Serbia are doctors for that kind of the defense, and we are paying attention to that a lot right here. That's why I'm always saying something about that zone. So I'm watching closely how the Kings are playing that defense, and we are watching it in EuroLeague every day, every single possession. So the Kings have a big issue when they switch in the middle of that zone, whatever it is, 2-3 or 3-2 zone. When the ball
Hi, Tedora.
sorry. When the ball goes from one side to another towards the best player on the other team, they always collapse very, very easy, only because the Kings team is slow. to play the defense overall. So there is a proof of that. Everybody asks themselves why the Kings are letting so much threes. The reason is very simple. They're afraid to stay close to the players, and you can see that every night because whilst the majority of the King players cannot follow the dribble which comes after you get too close to the player on the man-to-man defense. So they are close to the paint, which is something that previous caller spotted great. So no solution for me. That would be the big issue. That's why I asked Jerry, what will you do if you have 50-50? Will you put in the middle, that line in the middle? But if you ask me, I will put it. I will put my accent 70 on the defense to try to do something. But if I cannot do anything about it, I will switch everything to offense and hope that offense can overall and win something. Because riding in this direction, I don't see the Kings going much more than play in, and that's it.
Thanks, buddy. Good hearing from you. Appreciate it.
You
Good
too.
seeing you, Tor.
Take care, guys.
All right. You know, Grant, you've made it as a caller on this channel when you have somebody that's named their screen name after you.
Yes.
Lucky's Microwave.
I love it.
How about that? What a night.
Do you agree with me about the importance of Saturday's game?
You said it's a must win?
Yeah, against a team that's the worst team in the conference.
Yes, I'm with you. I'm completely with you. You want to put up the schedule really quick and we'll look at it? All right.
Yep.
Schedule coming at you. So yeah, we've got the loss tonight that's not reflected there. New Orleans. It is a must win. I'm with you. You got to get this one. You have to.
You go to at Dallas. Then you got the back-to-back with New Orleans.
Yeah, that could snowball quick. And then you give New Orleans some confidence if they knock you off on your home court when you play them twice. And that Dallas and back-to-back with New Orleans, that's 3 games in 4 days, Grant.
That's well, yeah.
So that's going to be very difficult to deal with. So, yeah, I'm with you. What's everybody in the chat think? Must win? We don't throw that around lightly too much around here.
You would be 2 games under 500.
Yep.
With 3 games left before the All-Star break. So you would go into the break. The best you could do would be a game over 500.
So would you say that the Kings need to be at 500 or better to have a chance at the play-in at the All-Star break?
Based on the schedule that they have coming up, in my opinion, yes.
All right.
Here's the things that I can't forecast, and I would like to get your opinion.
Yep.
Is Jimmy Butler going to make Golden State a much better team?
No.
Okay. Well, the Kings play Golden State coming right out of the break within a game or two. So if you're right and no, you should be able to win that game. Will Minnesota continue to play better? And my answer to that question is yes, because Julius Randle will be back in a couple of weeks. All right. They're already starting to play better, even though the Kings just beat them. Phoenix, I'm not sold on at all. You agree?
Me either. 100% with you.
But they're ahead of Sacramento by a whisker. And think about that. With all the problems that Phoenix has had, Ryno, they're still ahead of Sacramento in the standings. That's a little alarming, is it not?
It is. You can't let players that good hang around. You can't let them get to the dance either, Napes.
Here's the big game that is coming up, not necessarily in terms of the standings, but in terms of the fans' psyche and everything else. If De'Aaron Fox and the Spurs come into G1 Center, where they've already won twice this year, or excuse me, won once this year, that's going to be ugly. That will be an ugly post-game show.
It's a fabulous point. That is such a fabulous point. You're spot on. Spot freaking
That will be
on.
a very ugly post-game show.
That probably the season, theoretically, at least where the fan base stands, could hinge on that. Think about just the rhetoric coming out. If the Kings are collapsing, you get ran off the court by San Antonio at home.
And here's the other part of that. And I don't say this to be disrespectful. I say it because it's true. The Sacramento media is going to kiss his ass like you cannot believe when he comes into town.
They already did. It happened today.
I understand. They're going to continue to do it. And instead of asking him the tough questions, it will be a love fest. And that just makes me nauseous.
That a member of the media called him out today, and then it turned into a love fest. That's how those tweets went down. BJ, Guru, relax. Only the second game of Levine off the bench. Appreciate the super chat. BJ, appreciate you. We got a couple more callers, Napes. Let's get to
let's do it.
Joe. What's up, Joe?
What's up, guys? Can you guys hear me?
Yep, go ahead, Joe.
Hey, how are you guys doing? I'm so worried about the 3-point shooting, guys. The 10 for 30, I think is terrible. I don't think this team can be competitive with the lack of 3-point shooting and the lack of playmaking.
Joe, you bring up
and their defense on the 3-point shooting too. It's both
Correct.
ways right now.
Yeah.
Joe, you bring up a great point. Most people are looking at the 10. I'm looking at the 30. I don't think 30 is enough.
You know, I don't think Keegan's getting many opportunity. I like the opportunities he was getting in the first half. I wish they would stay consistent with that. I like that. I think one of you guys mentioned on the top of the show that Doug needs to draw up more plays. I mean, it works. It worked for a team that was together for 2 years, but it's not going to work like that anymore. So great analysis, guys. I'll be tuning in. Thank you for taking my call.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks, Joe. Don't remember you calling. Call back. Good job, man. Good job by Joe. Keegan Murray had 9 shots at halftime, Napes. He ends the game with 10. He only got 1 shot in the second half. Good job by Joe. He was, let's see, at halftime, he was 5 of 9. So not 1 shot, excuse me, in the second half. That's a problem for a guy that's hot.
Big problem.
That is for a guy whose shot was looking good. Jerry and I talked about that at halftime. That's where I say, Doug, you got to do better. You can't let these guys just play. Different group. You got to change it up. Let's try Umar one more time. What's up, Umar?
Hey there, Ryan, Grant. Can you guys hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah. How do we say your name? So I say.
Oh, you got it right. You got it right. No, thank you for taking my call. And
cool.
Apologies, last time I had a difficulty with the microphone coming on, but just wanted to share some 2 quick thoughts. One was Valanciunas. I'm happy to see him in a Kings uniform after seeing him beat us so badly the last few years, it's felt like. So I think he did a good showing for a guy that just came in late last night. We'll see how it looks with a little bit more time. So that's on the positive. On a little bit on the more sadder or a distressing note, I would say. And Grant, you picked up on some of the thoughts that I was having about Fox, and my opinion about him has changed in the last 24 to 48 hours, particularly when that video of him saying that he texted Stephon Castle when the rumors first started. And I'm thinking this is in direct contradiction to what you were telling the SAC B when you were giving your interviews with the SAC B, saying that, saying you want to be here, but behind the back, you're texting the team that you want to play with and players. And so that's not a good look at all. And then, of course, you're now seeing Malik Monk saying, I haven't spoken with the guy. And
same with DeMar DeRozan.
And same with DeMar DeRozan.
And really quick, Monk is always candid and honest. What you hear from Malik is no filter most times. So that's not dressed up. Completely separate of De'Aaron. It's a great point.
Think about that. DeRozan is in Sacramento mainly because Fox, and he said he had not talked to Fox yet, and same with Monk. That tells you all you need to know.
That's right.
Thank
That's
you.
right. So
You there, Umar?
that
Oh, there
was
you
the
go.
part that yeah, that was the part. You guys are right that um, as somebody I saw Fox in a good light, even up until the point he was traded, and then these reports are coming out, and that video of him, as you said, the body language is so different, right? And then of course the texting behind. I will just say, this thought just crossed my mind too. The fact that he was on Draymond Green's podcast, the guy that stomped your teammate in the,
That's, yeah.
Yep.
that to me, I don't know, maybe that's just my mentality. I would just never, it's one thing to be cordial, but it's quite another thing to be on the guy's podcast that was stomping on your teammate in the playoffs. So, I don't know, what's Fox's mentality there, and this might just be my mentality. I thought I would just throw that in there, but so yeah,
Well,
and just
oh
We're
no,
losing
I
you.
hope we're
I don't
not.
want to take too much time here, but just don't want our organization and our city to get that no class, no balls label, that can be so easily thrown at us. So, how is
Well,
it that that you could do this properly, right? And thank you guys for your time.
thank
Yeah.
you.
You
Hey,
know.
Ryan, go
Okay.
ahead.
No.
No, you go ahead.
You know the scariest thing about that? Go take, if you have a few extra minutes or you're working out, whatever it may be, go listen to the important parts of what Fox said in that Draymond Green podcast, encouraging the organization to make moves, improve the roster. These balls were already rolling when
Yep.
those comments were made.
Yeah.
De'Aaron was a fox in sheep's clothing. That's what he was.
Yep. New Orleans. Excuse me. CJ McCollum, king killer. Trey Murphy, king killer.
Yes.
Zion Williamson, when he's on, will kill you. Jose Alvarado missed last night's game because of an illness. He's expected to play. King killer. Bruce Brown, acquired from Toronto, is expected to play. So, the Pelicans right now are in the midst of a 7-game losing streak, and they've got problems. But when they have, and obviously DeJounte Murray tore his Achilles, here's the point I'm trying to make. This team with that lineup that I just mentioned, Ryan, despite the fact that they're 12-39 and have lost 7 in a row, when those players that I just mentioned are on the court, they're not chopped liver.
Well, Grant, that team that you just mentioned isn't 12-39. That team really hasn't been together most of the season.
That's right.
That's the big difference. And the right thing for the Pelicans is to play the Kings. Yeah, you beat them one time this season, which was great. You get the monkey off your back. But you didn't play these guys one time. They beat you 6 times last year. So they'll be ready for sure. Zion's the wild card, Grant.
Yes,
that
he
is the big wild card right there.
Yes, he is. On that note, you ready to wrap it up?
Let's do it, my friend. Thank you to everybody for being here in the chat. Tomorrow, we will be back 2 p.m. Kings Court. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. If you don't have time to watch, go to grantnapier.com. You can download the audio. Both of our shows are also on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon, wherever you get your podcasts. Napes, you doing a show tomorrow?
I may. A lot depends on my voice. So we'll just go by. If I do a show tomorrow, I'll do it we'll do it an evening show. We'll do it at 8 o'clock. All right. So if I feel better and I feel my voice is strong enough where I can talk without having Ryan help me, I'll do a show. But right now I'd say I'm 50-50.
All right. Looking forward to it. We'll tune into the King's Court. And the best way to know what we're doing, follow us on the X. Our handle's right there at Grant Napier Show, at Ryan_in_Sacktown. Every time we go live, we pop up on your stream. So disappointing night. Understandably, the fan base is down. The Kings are down, a game under 500 Napes, but your rant, fabulous. Take us home, partner.
All right. We've been down this road before, right? Win a lot, lose a lot. Hang in there. Better win on Saturday. All right. Thank you for being here. Love you people. You are awesome. Appreciate it. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.